We're going to go ahead and get started. Hello, everybody. If this is your first IAAPA webinar, we are thrilled to have you. If you've joined us before, welcome back and thank you for attending today's webinar, Mega Experiential Builds, Giant 3D Printers for Jaw-Dropping Experiences, presented by our education partner, Massivit. Now, my name is Brian Tierney, and I'm the Global Education Senior Specialist at IAAPA. And today's session will explore how large format 3D printing is helping design studios and theme parks and bring big ideas to life on tight timelines and with real business results. We'll look at the tools, techniques, and sustainability strategies being used in attractions, events, and retail environments across the globe. By participating in today's webinar, you can earn continuing education credit units towards the renewal of your IAAPA certification. More details on IAAPA certification can be found on our website. And now, I'm honored to introduce our moderator for today's webinar, Randy Van Buren. Randy is the head of North America sales at Massivit, where he thrives on helping manufacturers increase their production efficiency and explore new creative possibilities through fresh technologies. Exposing manufacturers to additive manufacturing innovations and applications. Randy has extensive expertise in 3D design processes and with an educational and career background in design and engineering. He is dedicated to contributing profound technical and creative know-how to the manufacturing community, and we are thrilled to have him guide us through today's conversation. So Randy, thanks for being here today. We really look forward to the discussion. I'm going to go ahead and turn things over to you.
All right. Well, again, thank you, Brian. I'd like to personally thank everyone in attendance for taking the time out of your day just to be with us for this journey through mega experiential builds. Just to provide a little background for me and my background, I've been involved in 3D technologies for most of my career. I've had experience ranging from engineering, mechanical design to conceptual and artistic design. And from traditional manufacturing techniques to state-of-the-art digital transformations, I've been fortunate to have been exposed to a wide range of technology that supports concept and production on many, many scales. Today, I'll share some of the latest technologies, techniques, and processes to create jaw-dropping experiences. We hope you'll find mega experiential builds informative and inspirational. As a side note, we will have our technical team on hand to answer questions along the way, so you can use the Q&A chat, as Brian had mentioned, or the Q&A panel. And then in the end, we'll have a Q&A session at the end of this presentation. But again, feel free to drop questions in the chat panel at any time. And Brian, just to confirm, you're seeing my title screen, correct?
Yes, I sure am, Randy. It looks good here on my end.
Perfect. Thank you so much. So as a publicly traded company, we're obligated to share our safe harbor statement. I won't force you to read all of that, unless, of course, you really want to, but we'll move forward. So let's go ahead and dive in. In today's competitive world, generally, speed is of the essence. So time is a luxury most companies can't afford, and this rings true for scenic fabricators, as well as visual communications and entertainment firms. Often, creative awesomeness is sacrificed at the expense of speed. Either technologies or techniques are too slow or simply not capable of producing truly amazing builds in a timely manner. So corners are cut, quality or size is sacrificed, or in the worst case, projects simply aren't taken on. So when we think about that, design studios, print shops, and theme park experts are the gurus at bringing wild creative concepts to life, whether for events, retailer environments, theme park attractions. But in parallel, they're asked to meet really tight deadlines, and that's where often the problem lies. So how can you bring to life your customers' wildest creative dreams while taking into account the time and cost considerations necessary for business? We'll take a quick look at that throughout the presentation here. So brands and design houses like to think big. Take this larger than life display, for instance. Impact matters from the visual perspective and the experiential perspective. Today, we're going to give you just a glimpse at some of the incredible theming projects popping up across the globe, which have been brought to life with large format 3D printing. And we'll answer the question of how you can accomplish this fast. This giant display, for instance, is installed in front of the train station in Setúbal, Portugal. It was designed by artist Ricardo Romero and printed by Portuguese company Imetris. Here's another example. Interactive installations means that we're not just talking about isolated pieces of art to visualize and appreciate, but rather an experience to remember, something you can take home with you. Take, for instance, this giant ski boot that was made possible by leveraging a unique large format 3D printing technology. At over 7 feet long and over 7 feet tall, this giant boot was 3D printed in just 38 hours. Finished and produced and bonded together and placed in its environment and ready for selfies. This created a photo opportunity for guests during the special ski deal celebration event. With a huge crowd, this was one event to remember. Large and lovable characters and creatures turn a regular vicinity into an experience in an immersive world. This figure was 3D printed for the Festival of Lights, and it's over 8 meters long. It was finished by sanding, painting, waterproofing. The metal structures were added at the end to support the arms of the display. And we'll talk in a few minutes about how this is even possible with large format 3D printing, considering again that this is over 8 meters long. And 3D printing really shines when it comes to creating unique geometries based on digital CAD design files or even 3D scanned objects. We'll talk more about the differences between the two later, but this gaming cockpit was 3D printed using Massivit's innovative gel dispensing printing, or GDP for short. You'll hear me mention GDP as we go along throughout the presentation, but as you can tell, this giant gaming pod was printed as and is in use as a game where people are crawling in and out of it with electronics, motion activation, etc. So we're showing some really cool, really big fabrications, but again, what about the deadlines we talked about? Massivit, a leading manufacturer of large format 3D printers, was founded with a vision to solve 3 main barriers in the 3D printing market: printing speed, printing scale or size, and material versatility. The technology, gel dispensing printing, or GDP as I mentioned, allows production of large parts up to almost 6 feet tall to be printed in the 3D printer in a single build at incredible speeds. And if your production piece is larger than the Massivit 3D printer size, as in the skeleton example we showed in the slide earlier, you can easily bond these large parts together using the same gel technology that's used to print the part, but in its raw form. Then simply cure the joint with a UV handheld light to reach any size or form. So let's take a glimpse and a look at it in action. What you're seeing is a time lapse of 2 unique projects printed by our customer hatch exhibits. But still, even though it's a time lapse, you can likely see how automated technology can transform production and speed up workflows for companies that have traditionally sculpted or molded their installation pieces. This allows you to get the IP directly printed, as you can tell the details, for instance, on the unicorn face with the eyes and the hair and the nostrils as well. So I'll take just a minute to explore how the GDP technology works. So GDP rapidly and precisely dispenses a UV-cured photopolymer gel that's instantly cured by UV light as it prints. As you can see in the example, on the left-hand side, there's a UV ring that's attached to the print head. And as the gel is being extruded, it instantly cures the gel using the UV ring. And by instantly curing the part as it's printed, there's no need for time-consuming infill like there is with traditional 3D printing technologies. This creates a hollow, lightweight part that can either be left hollow for internal illumination or other effects, or even filled with expandable foam, for instance, for reinforcement, depending on the project requirements. Massivit GDP technology is the core technology for two of our large format 3D printers, one of which is the Massivit 3D 3000 printer. So let's take a look at the printer as it prints some really massive scenic and visual pieces. You may recognize the character from Squid Games in the example here. Firms like Pink Sparrow in LA have been supporting customers and companies like Netflix with awesome giant builds like this on a regular basis. Massivit technology isn't just used for static displays, but as you can see in the lower right corner, you can use it for transportation examples, transportation displays, bus logos, truck logos, etc., that are 3D and visual. Companies are using the technology for a whole host of applications, including point of purchase, exhibits, experiential displays, and moving displays, again, such as the Angry Birds bus advertisement that you see. So as you may have noticed from the video, GDP printers use only the necessary material required to form the final shape or form. So in other words, when you saw the legs of the Squid Game character being printed, it was completely hollow. And again, that allows for additive technologies and additional technologies like expandable foam or mounting locations, steel reinforcement beams, etc., to be added inside the print at a later time. This process is pretty much the opposite to standard sculpting or milling processes, which start off with a block of foam or wood or metal and carve away at it, generating enormous waste and usually a considerable amount of time. And surprisingly, the printer uses an incredibly small amount of energy relative to its size and capability. And of course, reducing or eliminating outsources dramatically can reduce your overall carbon footprint due to today's current transportation fuels. Finally, controlling everything in-house enables higher security on your and your customers' IP. So the Massivit 3000 is the tool in the toolbox that enables companies to complete those large production pieces really, really fast, with tremendous speed up to 14 inches per hour in the Z-axis, and a build volume of 4 feet deep by 5 feet wide by 6 feet high. The Massivit 3000 can print a 6-foot tall sculpture in just 6 hours. I'm going to say that one more time. 4 feet deep by 5 feet wide by 6 feet tall. And again, a 6-foot sculpture in just 6 hours, depending on the geometry, of course. The sister printer to the Massivit 3000 is the Massivit 5000, featuring the same build size and speed, but adds a second independent print head, enabling printing of 2 completely different parts at the same time. Massivit 5000 also adds some additional capabilities for material types, which we'll talk about in just a second. So you've heard a little bit about the benefits of speed and build size when considering leveraging 3D printing into your production workflow. We really haven't mentioned the available printing materials, which is the third portion of those benefits that we talked about earlier. Massivit has developed a wide range of materials, including our workhorse Diamond Gel 90 material that's cost effective, to our transparent Diamond Gel 300, to Diamond Gel 110, which is a high performance, high resolution translucent material suitable for printing illuminated projects. Additional materials include Diamond Gel 400, which you see over on the end of the slide with the yellow chair that you can actually sit in. It's an enhanced impact material that's incredibly durable. And as I mentioned previously, the Massivit 5000 can print all of these materials, while the Massivit 3000 prints the Diamond Gel 90, 100, and 300 transparent. Massivit continues to develop materials to meet the needs of our customers in the scenic fabrication and theming and entertainment industries, as well as our industrial customers in automotive, marine, rail, and aerospace. So we're going to dive into some examples of our customers' awesome 3D printing applications. But before I do, I just wanted to let you know about our upcoming open house event on July 23rd at our customer site, Hatch Exhibits in Maryland, USA. During that in-person event, we'll take you through a more in-depth overview of Massivit and materials, and we'll perform a live demonstration of the technology using a Massivit 5000, one of the two Massivit printers Hatch Exhibits owns. Later in the presentation, I'll share a slide that contains all the detailed information for the open house. So let's start with some theme park and museum experience projects. Here's an example of this large dragon display was printed by our Massivit customer LMI in Mexico. What you're seeing is the dragon completely printed and assembled before final finishing. Based on the size of the tables behind the dragon, you can kind of get an idea of the scope and really the scale and how big the dragon actually is. Here you see the head and the claw printed on the left and right, still in their cured state on the 3D printer. And again, I mentioned cured state because as soon as we're extruding the diamond gel, it's being instantly cured, allowing us to print hollow completely. So these are the grayish white pieces that you see on the sides. The center image is the dragon fully finished using traditional finishing techniques. Massivit diamond gel materials are incredibly easy to work with, both for sanding, polishing, but to also have excellent adhesion properties for top coating with various mediums. Earlier, I mentioned that Massivit 3D printers are a tool in the toolbox, though a really awesome tool in the toolbox. On the left, you see one of the tentacles printed for this octopus display, still in the Massivit printer. And on the right, you see the finished display piece that leverages Massivit printed parts as well as 2D printing technologies to create an awesome 3D user experience for this display. So blended technologies are absolutely a way to create giant display pieces using Massivit and existing technologies as well. Even details such as the shark's teeth can be printed with Massivit GDP technology. The original design model is on the left, but what you see on the right side is the shark without the teeth. So it was printed without the teeth, and you can determine, depending on the geometry, whether you want to print something together or separate. But remember, it's easy to bond multiple parts using our gel technologies. Sometimes it does make sense to print objects separately due to speed, due to size, due to detail. And here are those teeth, highly detailed and ready to go. The left side is the model inside of the Massivit Smart Slicer, while the right side shows the actual 3D printed teeth. The teeth are simply snapped off the base and assembled onto the mouth of the shark. That bite radius is approximately 2 feet. The radius is 2 feet, making the spread from side to side for the teeth approximately 4 feet. That's a really big bite. Finally, we see the Mega Experiential build assembled and on display, finished and painted. Maybe you noticed this is the exhibit featured on the title slide of the presentation. But if you remember, we showed the fabricator adding the teeth on that title slide. Here he is bonding the teeth using Massivit diamond gel and a handheld UV flashlight. So he simply adds Massivit diamond gel in its raw form to the teeth, places it into position, and just hits it with a UV flashlight. And when I say hits it, scans over with a UV flashlight and cures the bond instantly. Once that's complete, he can finish the detail painting on those teeth. And when it comes to museum and historical installations, accuracy really counts. So using a 3D scanner or basing your end product on a digital design file is ideal. Rather than designing everything from scratch in a CAD system, which can take a lot of time and a lot of expertise, you can simply leverage the power of 3D scanning at any scale, small to large, including even topographical examples for geometries that may include a remote dig at a remote site or a building in a remote location. But you can use that 3D scanning to duplicate the objects and simply 3D print them. By changing the scale, you can take an object, digitize it by 3D scanning it, scale it up or down, and then simply 3D print it. LMI in Mexico has produced some amazing immersive experiences using Massivit GDP technology, including this King Tut experience for National Geographic. Here are just some additional views of that example showing the incredible detail with the inscription on the back, as you see in the middle photo, which of course was 3D printed on the Massivit, and the amazing finishing work of LMI. So let's move on to some giant event props using Massivit technology. Here you can see how our customer Shag Carpet has actually achieved many different finishes on the same giant printed boots. So rather than building and carving and spending the time to create each boot, the boot is simply reprinted over and over, assembled using our gel technology and the UV curing, as I mentioned, if the boot obviously is larger than the print bed. And again, using the same boot, your final product has exponential finishing results, as you can see in the photo. Highly detailed to provide the leather look and the embroidery or the mirror finish on the side, and again, adorned with different types of applications, just depending on the presentation using the same 3D scan geometry. The printed parts support almost any finishing technique, including paintwork, flocking, internal illumination as well, bronze patina effects, or even vinyl wrapping. Event props like these are why massive is in our name. It's in our DNA. Any finish, any texture, amazing possibilities. By printing so big and fast, GDP technology enables fabricators to get to the finishing stage much faster than traditional fabrication techniques. This provides craftsmen and artisans the time needed to still provide amazing quality within the compressed fabrication cycles many companies are facing today. Ultra-fast, large format 3D printing unleashes endless creativity in design and fabrication. It offers unique flexibility not found in any other technology. Take the example, for instance, with the dripping paint or dripping nail polish, whatever it may be. Using Massivit, really easy to print that, bond it, paint it, and assemble it. Any scale. Sporting events and branding are becoming huge end recipients of large format 3D printing geometry and technology. Printing fast and hollow provides unparalleled benefits in speed and material consumption, because by printing hollow, you're actually reducing the amount of material that you're consuming, making it cost effective as well. And just looking at the 5-gallon pail, if you can see it, the little 5-gallon pail in the photo, in the lower left of the photo, you get an idea of the scale of this 3D printed display piece. It's incredibly large. It's massive. And again, printed in multiple pieces, assembled with Massivit's raw diamond gel, and instantly cured using a UV flashlight. And here's the finished product, larger than life display by AdSpace, Mexico. Amazing technology and an amazing finishing job. And this product, for instance, has been able to withstand weather and for a period of about 2 years. I will mention also, just because I mentioned weather, Massivit's materials are hydrophobic, so they already have an instant benefit when thinking about outdoor use and areas where there is water required as well. So now let's look at some advertising and branded campaigns leveraging GDP 3D printing technology. So here's a before and after custom display for branding in an outdoor shopping center. You see the boot being printed on the Massivit printer on the left side and the finished boot on the right side. Once again, kudos to our Massivit customer LMI in Mexico for this amazing build. This was printed for the Santa Fe Shopping Center using Massivit 3D printing technology. Here's just another view to provide you with the real scale and texture of the final piece. Just looking at it, you can almost feel the suede leather of that boot. And you can also create precise branding because of that precision, protecting your brand's IP. And as I mentioned earlier, you can apply nearly any type of finish to the 3D printed parts, allowing for complex textures, again, like the faux suede for this boot. Next, we'll look at a couple of experiential retail and out-of-home advertising, leveraging Massivit GDP technology. Amazing point of purchase displays, bringing brands to life with precise yet organic features, still keeping attention to detail for the print and finished display piece. By leveraging the size and capabilities of the Massivit 3D printing technology, you can create amazing eye-catching displays in a relatively short amount of time. Again, we talked about time is of the essence, especially in today's compressed cycles. So being able to produce the model extremely fast has huge benefits, and it is certainly capable using the Massivit GDP technology. And this amazing outdoor display for the Circle K Beer Bus Shelter campaign was 3D printed by Massivit customer Media Resources in Canada. Massivit GDP technology enabled Media Resources to quickly produce the six-pack you see on top of the shelter. This build is an excellent example of leveraging blended technologies in fabrication, since it utilizes a combination of mediums, including metal, signage, and of course, the 3D printed components from Massivit as well. Massivit GDP technology is an excellent tool, very exceptional for producing dimensional signage. We'll take a look at one example that really shines for dimensional signage using Massivit technology. And again, by blending technologies such as wide format 2D printed backgrounds with large 3D printed elements, you can create incredibly impactful displays that capture and captivate the viewer. As an added bonus, Massivit GDP technology can be printed as a mold for thermoforming plastic sheets that can then be finished lightweight window displays when a large number of the same display may be required. In the case that you see on the screen, these were directly printed, the 3D portion directly printed of the bottle, and then applied to the background that again was using a 2D printed large format technology. Blended technologies for sure. So we'll talk briefly a couple examples for film, TV, and launches. Here's an example of complex geometry being printed for film using a Massivit 5000 3D printer with dual print heads. As you can see in this example, the same part, actually left and right, but virtually the same part printed using both print heads of the Massivit 5000. As we saw an example earlier from the Squid Game, both of those print heads can print different parts as well on the same machine at the same time. This was an example being printed for The Witcher from Netflix. Let's get a little bit more detailed in the next section in replicating and restoring sculptures. We'll also talk about finishing techniques to get extraordinary results. So I'll share one example for sculpture work. This was an example of Massivit GDP used for restoration of a building and its architecture. This crumbling capital, as you can see on the screen, was decaying so badly, it was at the point that it wasn't possible to continue to repair any longer. The decision was made to 3D scan the geometry, modify it, and then 3D print the capital. There were 5 capitals in total to scan and print. So the capitals were scanned, modified, the geometry is modified to fix any imperfections in the capital from the original scan. They were 3D scanned and then printed on a Massivit 3D printer using gel technology. By utilizing a Massivit 5000, again, these pieces could be printed at the same time on the printer, saving valuable time for production. And finally, here's the building with the new 3D printed capitals installed. The texture and finish was applied to match the existing building's period architecture. And you can see the geometry. It may be a little hard to see, but there are 5 capitals underneath, 3 large capitals and 2 small. And again, all 3D printed on a Massivit, finished to match the building's architecture and color. This sculpture, The Spirit of the Marathon, was 3D scanned, printed, assembled, and finished as a giant display piece for the Boston Marathon. Our customer, Hatch Exhibits, utilized their Massivit 3D printers to create this amazing replica. This incredible story is really about the short delivery time frame they had for completion. Massivit GDP was really the only technology that would enable Hatch Exhibits to create the sculpture and deliver it on time. And as we mentioned earlier, virtually any finishing techniques and medium can be applied to the Massivit 3D printed pieces. In this case, a faux bronze patina was applied to achieve the realistic results of the design. And here's the finished statue being prepared and finally put in place during the setup for the event. And once again, kudos to our customer, Hatch Exhibits, for this incredible build. Because the diamond gel print material, as I mentioned, has such excellent adhesion, you can finish with virtually any medium necessary to get the desired texture and finish, as in this example for the tree stump, the tree ring, and the example of these two, if you take a quick look, the tree ring, which is a giant tree ring, 3.8 meters by 1 meter, very, very large, in 90 hours. It was internally filled with expandable foam and external fiberglass coating and epoxy resin wood texturing. So once again, sometimes when you're printing this large geometry, the idea is to be able to get to the end result of the IP really fast. So you may use a variety of different coating techniques, a variety of different infill techniques, depending on the weight that you want to achieve, depending on the structure that you want to achieve. Virtually endless possibilities. But the key point is you're getting to that end result much, much faster because we print so fast. Again, up to 14 inches per hour. So earlier we talked about assembly and finishing options, especially with extremely large 3D printed pieces. Let's watch a little behind the scenes at Hatch Exhibits as they print, assemble, and finish large pieces with ease for the Boston Marathon event. So I really have to tell you, every time I see the incredible builds that our customers create, I smile. It is just amazing. It's really fun to see what our customers can do with our technology. So even though that printing speed was set up in was sped up in the beginning in the interest of time, you can probably easily see that it's an incredibly fast technology. In fact, there's no other large format technology faster than Massivit GDP. You saw how simple it was to bond the parts together when they combined the unicorn headpieces using just our diamond gel and a handheld UV light to instantly cure the bond, creating the large unicorn figure. So I'll show you in another video that highlights how easy it is to strengthen even seemingly delicate 3D printed parts so they can withstand the test of time. You'll also notice the dual print head capability of the Massivit 5000 in this video. Kind of a fun, whimsical video and audio track for that. Hopefully you notice the yellow spray being applied. This is a polyurea impingement spray that really makes these giant asparagus statues virtually indestructible. And of course, you can finish using your preferred medium for any stellar look that you require. So here's a brief recap of our GDP materials, along with the addition of our cast in motion, which we really won't talk about in depth today, but that's our sim technology, cast in motion. Building on the foundation of our gel dispensing printing, we've developed the technology to cast in motion, real time on the 3D printer, a durable two-part epoxy. This enables fabricators, builders, and manufacturers to directly cast 3D epoxy resins that include an ASTM E84 fire and smoke certified resin, as well as several other resins for tooling, molds, and end-use parts. You can learn more about both technologies at our upcoming open house at Hatch Exhibits. So I think now we're going to go through our Q&A in just a minute. But first, I'd like to share again more details about the open house I mentioned earlier. If you're interested in seeing the Massivit 3D GDP technology live, up close, and in person, we're hosting this joint open house with Hatch Exhibits on July 23rd in Elkridge, Maryland, USA. Additionally, if you'd like to see how long your model would take to 3D print on a Massivit 3D printer, contact us for a free time and material evaluation. We'll have details and contact information at the end of the presentation. Finally, you'll also learn about our new casting applications with Sika-based resins for industrial tooling and thermoforming at that event. And now, with the help from our behind the team scenes and Brian, we'll answer some Q&A for you. Brian, would you be so kind to share some of the questions we have?
No, absolutely. We have a lot of questions coming in, actually. A lot of people are excited and interested in this in this information, what you've been discussing. So let me try to, because a few seem fairly much like they're about the same question here. So several people are asking what the durability of the process is, and what intrigues them the most are exhibits that have thousands, especially here in Orlando, thousands of guests, sometimes inside a single hour, touching things. And someone else is also asking about structural integrity. So could you speak on that a little bit on this product?
Absolutely, Brian. So there's a couple things that you can consider. And with any technology, there are so many things that you can add to the technology when necessary. So for instance, it's really easy to add expandable foam, for instance, on the inside. And the reason we can do that, again, is because we print completely hollow. Believe it or not, in many other technologies, they cut the entire portion of the internal model out so they can do that. We automatically print hollow. So you can add expandable foam, you can simply add fiberglass, a very thin layer of fiberglass over the model so that you can create that durability. With the foam as well, when you've got outside components, Brian, that are going in displays, you can add metal structures to mount it to in different locations. You can add components that might be removable for maintenance using metal construction. So just because we're printing incredibly fast doesn't mean that we're eliminating other technologies or we can't use other technologies. It just really depends on where it's going in the environment. The other thing to note is that it's a huge range of materials that we have with our Massivit gel dispensing printing. And so, for instance, I mentioned Diamond Gel 400, which is an incredibly high impact material as well. I hope that answers that question.
Yeah, absolutely. And you talked about mounting. I do see a question here. How do your customers typically mount the finished sculptures? Have you seen success by integrating the mounting system into the print material so that there's minimal extra fabrication and parts required?
So if I understand the question correctly, certainly integrated into the model, and so this may dovetail right off the question I answered just a moment ago. But internal metal structures can be added inside the 3D print because it's hollow, and again, simply used expandable foam, for instance, to trap that metal structure inside the part so that it can be mounted.
Great. And where is that? Here it is. Oh, this is probably an important question, but do all the printed pieces meet US fire codes?
So there are a number of different codes that we meet, and I think let's see if Yotam gave us the exact specification. Bear with me one moment. Let's see. Here we go. So it depends on the fire and smoke code that you're looking for. So for instance, on our cast in motion technology that I mentioned, SIM 84 is a complete fire rated and smoke rated material. So outdoor displays that might be right next to people, for instance, SIM 84 is ASTM E84 compliant. A number of our materials are as well. And that's probably a great question to have one-on-one, depending on the spec that folks are looking for.
Great. And this is also a great time to remind everybody viewing, feel free to ask more questions in the Q&A panel because we'll be sending those questions to Massivit if we're not able to get to everybody's questions today. So feel free to include anything that pops up. Now, I have a question here that says, does the printer include its own software to manage the design geometry, create supports, and define different qualities? Do you provide support to learn how to use it?
Great question, Brian. So, and I appreciate the person asking the question. When we think about an installation for any Massivit printer, we're going to set up the printer, we're going to configure the printer, we're going to certify it, we're going to print with you so you see how it's done, and then we're going to train you on the equipment itself, but also on the applications. We do have our own proprietary slicer. As you can imagine, our technology is so unique, there's just no other technology like it, that we have our own proprietary slicer. We'll train you on that slicer as well. So we provide all of the installation, training, and support directly. Additionally, when it comes to the ribs and someone mentioned generating supports, remember, 9 times out of 10, supports aren't necessary to add to the model like you would think of traditional FDM technology. But when any support or any rib is required, the Massivit Smart Slicer will help place that for you. Absolutely. And make recommendations based on that.
All right, let's could you share what is the most cost-effective material to use for thematic elements?
Sure. So if it were me, and I base this based on largely based on our customers, when people are looking for geometries that they're going to build and create that are going to have any type of finishing applied, with the exception of internal lighting, I would absolutely recommend our Diamond Gel 90. That's really our workhorse material. That's that grayish material that you saw earlier in the presentation. It's not translucent, so means that if you're going to do any kind of top coating and finishing that doesn't require illumination, that's the best tool to use. If you require just a dovetail, if you require illumination on the inside, then Diamond Gel 100 or 110 would be a better option.
Fantastic. So let's see here. Besides IPA and ethanol, are there any other materials or solvents that the gel reacts negatively to, like acetone?
That's a great question. And with respect to the material itself, one thing to remember, this might help when people are thinking about different materials, acetones and things like that. Remember that this is a thermoset material. So it's an acrylic-based thermoset material, and it is not a thermoplastic, which reacts very differently. So for instance, one thing that people attempt to use in FDM is the ability to use different acetones and things like that to react with the model. There's kind of a benefit in a way that Massivit as a thermoset material does not react to that. At the same time, certainly acetone isn't one of the tools we would recommend for trying to finish the Massivit diamond gel, if that makes sense.
All right, great, thank you. Here's a great question. What are the applications of using this technology to produce something like a wheelchair, for example, that could be designed for a specialty attraction, something someone could easily transfer into?
Sure. So experiential attractions are really a sweet spot for Massivit. And the way that works is if you remember the gaming chair that we saw early on, that people are in, they're getting inside, they're operating controls within that gaming chair. The gaming chair is moving around. That's directly printed with Massivit. The difference is this, again, depending on application. They applied a very thin layer of fiberglass on the outside of that gaming chair, which gave it an incredibly strong structure. And then they finished in traditional technologies with paints and finishes, as you normally would in the attractions industry. One thing to keep in mind, though, and it sort of goes along the line of the question about acetone, but with regard to finishing Massivit materials, remember it's a thermoset material. It sands incredibly well, very, very easy. It doesn't gum up the sanding medium like a thermoplastic would. So it makes it easy to finish and easy to apply. Again, external components like the thin layer fiberglass, etc. We actually do have customers that have made decorative scenic wheelchairs for the Magic Wheelchair project. Magic Wheelchair is a project that's near and dear to my heart. And we do have customers that have done that where kids, terminally ill, traditionally terminally ill kids, um, have their dreams realized by having their favorite characters' components generated and built around their wheelchair, and they're very, very durable. Um, we do have a link that was sent for the project on the Q&A that people can look for.
Thanks for that answer, Randy. We have a viewer that is kind of curious about what are some of the emerging innovations in the 3D printing pipeline that you, Randy, for example, are really excited about. Do you have any
Sure.
thoughts on that?
Sure, absolutely. So when I think specific about Massivit, for me, it's materials. We continue to push the boundary on materials. We have obviously, as you can probably imagine, we have material science on board, And what we're looking at is additional materials, both in our diamond gel materials to go faster, to be stronger, and as well on our cast in motion, which again, we didn't talk much about, but different materials for different industrial applications as well. And so when you combine that speed of Massivit and the size of Massivit and additional new materials, that's really where the name of the game comes in terms of innovation. We're really excited about it, and I think that's what you're going to be seeing on the forefront from Massivit.
Right. Earlier, you talked about your support during commissioning, setup, and staff training. What about maintenance, repairs, spare parts, consumables, etc., in Europe?
Sure, absolutely. So we certainly stock all the consumables, but in the end, when it comes to maintenance, they're very maintenance free. And what I mean by that is Massivit is built to run. They're very, very durable, and they're just built to run. If there is something that happens from a support standpoint, we can remote in with your permission as a customer. We can remote in, we can see inside the machine, we can see what's happening, and we'll try and diagnose remotely. But generally, from a maintenance standpoint, it's keeping the dispenser clean, it's making sure that the pump is clean. And to that point, Brian, and they would see more of this at the open house at Hatch Exhibits, to that point, that that bucket that you saw, the 5 gallon bucket in one of those examples, I think it was the helmet, the racing helmet. That bucket is the actual diamond gel, and you put it in the machine. The pump goes right in the bucket. It's very, very easy and very, very little maintenance in terms of the Massivit technology.
All right, great. And let's see, I think I saw a few questions more in the chat. I wanted to make sure I don't miss anything here from anybody on this on the chat end. Considering the different types of gel in the printer, are they proprietary from Massivit or are they standard products on the market to feed the printer?
That's a great question. So, because of the unique technology, they are proprietary. And so, to that end, we stock that diamond gel in different parts of the world, of course. But they are proprietary again because it's a very, very unique technology, which we have numerous patents on. And so, we do work directly with our customers with respect to the materials. But again, I will say, from even though from a proprietary standpoint, understand that the consumption of material is traditionally so much less than a traditional large format FDM because there's no infill, because we're printing hollow as well.
Okay, great. And I think we have time, maybe just one more question here for now. And again, everybody, if you still have questions, throw them into the Q&A here real quick for us, and I'll make sure I send that question along to get answered for you here fairly soon. But we have one final question about how thin can a part be made? For instance, like a car hood.
Absolutely. So you can print, and for instance, here's one thing to keep in mind. So with from a printing technology on the Massivit 5000, you can print in layer height down to 0.5 millimeters all the way up to 1.5 millimeters. There are also a number of different um, wall thicknesses that you can use within Massivit, and so it depends on the print head. I'm sorry, the nozzle, and it also depends on the settings. So we can do a single wall, we can do a double wall, we can stack double walls, and we can print a single mega wall, which is really kind of a wall and a half. But for an example like a car hood, what I would suggest is that you can certainly print in the thinnest setting, but then you would want to apply a thin layer of fiberglass over top of that car hood as well. That's certainly been done with Massivit technology, and for instance, even a car bumper been produced for, or I should say, the fascia on a car from Massivit technology as well. So you can print thin and simply add a thin layer of fiberglass on top of it.
All right, great, Randy. Well, thank you so much for all that information. And again, everybody, if you have questions, feel free to. Well, actually, I think Randy, I was going to have you wrap it up. Do you have some contact information you could share with the viewers if they wanted to reach out as well?
I do, Brian, absolutely. So in this slide, the easiest way to do it right now, because we've got a global audience, would be if the anyone that wants additional contact would send information to info@massivit.com. That would be the best way to get the results they're looking for. Additionally, they can certainly visit massivit3d.com for additional examples, customer case studies, and more detailed information on the materials.
All right. Well, thank you so much, and thank you everybody for tuning in today. Wow, that dragon on your last screen here is fantastic. I could use that guy to guard the house. That'd be pretty nice. Well, special thank you to Randy for such a fantastic discussion. We appreciate your time and your expertise and your commitment to the industry and our IAAPA members as well. Just as a reminder that today's webinar will be available online in a couple of days, so please check out IAAPA.org for this recording, along with many, many other education sessions. That wraps up our session today, so thanks again for attending, and we hope to see you at a future IAAPA webinar. Have a great day.